right, hello, good morning, hello, good morning. Let's see where this camera is pointing. Oh, let's show the award. The gold. No, it's a secret. Anyways, hey Quentin, how's it going? Hey Goxix, good morning, good morning. All right, we are live. Hey Eric, so today, I know I'm not gonna have a lot of time, as per usual with 30 minutes only. But I was thinking I'll focus in on doing the space pirates, like starting to draw the final line art, or at least to some extent the final line art. And I think just for the sake of sanity, I will double the resolution, just so I have wiggle room to do what I need to do. Wow, it doesn't want to. It didn't want to play nice. Hey, good morning, Chistrand. Glad that you made it yet again. All right. Thanks, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. So, without further ado, it's time. Let's start. So the countdown has initiated. So as I was saying yesterday, all these are like this was just like a dirty or cleaner version of a dirty sketch. So what I'll be doing now, I said I had it at 9. Let's continue it on 9, but it's probably going to be too thin. So how about we put it on 12? I think 12 will do. 12 will. You shut up. How dare you, Ring? Maybe not. Maybe let's use. I mean, this is half the resolution, and if I would do, I'd probably be okay. So as I was kind of designing these space pirates, I mean, as far as I remember, a lot of the space pirates from Super Metroid, they were like cricket-like. So because I don't want to be drawing crazy amount of unnecessary details, I will first I will try to come up with a good solution to complex yet doable information, because the worst is if you like have lots of unnecessary details everywhere that doesn't help readability, right? So what I will be trying to do is come up with a design for the space pirates on this guy that I can easily translate to all the other ones, so that I don't need to sit and draw space pirates until the sun explodes. Goxix, yeah, exactly. There were some sort of weird, skinny-looking things with spikes on their arms, like strong cricket-like appendices, right? So the eyes, I was thinking quite large, like mantis-like. And that should probably not be a separate mandible. I think that's a pretty good start for what the space pirates could look like face-wise. Big eyes, yet they don't have big eyes, but the shape will suggest it. Some nasty teeth going in. these should probably be a little bit sharper so they look a little bit more dangerous. Yeah, something like that. Okay. I'm happy with having that moving forward with. Okay, let's zoom out and see the amount of detail. That's probably gonna be okay. I feel like the teeth are a little bit lost in compression of lines, but I think all in all, I think it'll work. So let's just do some insectoid-like anatomy here. How about for making them feel insectoid more, we have more of like a exoskeleton type bicep. So it doesn't have muscles, but it has like a segment of bone. Hey Hugh, good morning. You made it. You came back. Lurib and Jacob Mobley. Awesome. Glad to have such fantastic people hanging out with in the morning. All right. So I was thinking today while I was doing making coffee that I remember the day where I felt that my technique wasn't holding me back creatively. Hey Nefas, good morning. Coffee. Like I remember that day. It was at Sega, working for Creative Assembly on I think on Alien. And I felt like as I was kind of starting to draw, or no, actually, it wasn't a game before that never was made, like a horror game in space on the moon. Anyways, I was feeling like, oh, the only thing more or less that kind of holds me back is what I can generate with my mind, like idea or like execution of the idea. Kjellstrand, that sounds fantastic. Like, of course, it's always challenging to make a picture. You always struggle with the technical aspect, so on. But like, I remember that day where I felt like the technique was now secondary. Like coming up with a good idea, coming up with a good game plan, using thumbnails correctly to generate the idea and present it in a specific way. That became more of the challenge, you know, not the whole I have to learn this art thing, you know. And it was a really interesting feeling. And I'm quite sure that with anyone that spends so much time trying to perfect their trade or their knowledge in something, that they grind it so much that it must feel this feeling of technique being secondary must come for everyone, because it's such a you're always striving to perfect the moves, right? The hand gestures or the movement of the wrist and whatever to make sure that you're drawing the best you can. But there will be a point where that is not the thing that holds you back, which I remember was such a weird realization that, oh shit, like, right, I must have hit another level at some point, and I wasn't aware of it until just one day I was sitting there drawing some concepts and going like, it's a completely different challenge, you know. I think that's it felt good in a way, you know, that I the whole daily grind about perfecting anatomy and perfecting all these things, that it's completely different all of a sudden, which felt always, it felt like an interesting, it was a really weird feeling. Because always for me, when doing work, has been the idea of, the whole imposter syndrome, like I don't know what I'm doing. But then there will be a point where you go like, oh, maybe I actually know what I'm doing. Hey Georg, good morning, or good evening rather for you. It's the end of your day. No, so what I was gonna just say that um, I'm hoping that you guys feel that emotion as well, or if you already have, I think that's even better. But that there is this feeling of next level grinding, that you don't need to, that the hard work has paid off to some degree, right? That you gotta start focusing on the next things, the things that I mean, a lot of skill stuff comes automatically. It's the 10,000 drawing idea, right? To do something 10,000 times and you'll learn it. But after those 10,000 times, you have learned it to some degree, and now you have to start using it as a passive knowledge. Like I don't need to think about thumbnailing in the sense of, let's say character design or whatever. That comes so secondary now that I've done it so many thousands of times that it doesn't become, it's not an active part of my process, because I can already envision the result, right? Jacob Mobile, yeah, that's a completely different challenge, right? That the grinding of just practicing and practicing is starting to reach its end, and then it comes that next level, whatever that next level is, right? Because everyone wants different things, and everyone doesn't want the same thing. I mean, obviously, but like the feeling of, for example, like a parallel of sketching, or you sketch light, or you sketch an environment, or you sketch a character, and that feeling when everything just, you don't need to look up anatomy reference, or you don't need to look up the what the how depth fogging or environmental atmospheric fogging works. Like it's become so second nature that because you've been practicing so much, that all of a sudden that becomes a process you don't need to think about anymore. Which I think is it's always this cool feeling of completion, or you tick the box of something that now that, okay, you should probably maintain it, like don't forget about practicing it, or thinking about it, but it's not a thing that holds you back from moving forward, right? It has become passive knowledge. It's automatic. And that's the purpose of doing studies and practicing over and over and over again, is to get that point where all that things you practice becomes second nature, that becomes automated. I mean, that's why you do drills, that's why you do all these, shut up, phone. That's why you do all these things, so that they will become second nature. Georg, yeah, I mean that is obviously um, you practicing or enjoying art and then realizing, oh shit, I need a actual knowledge behind what I do, um, uh, just naturally, right, for fun. And that's then you're forced to go back and practice, go back to the practice aspect. Yeah, well, that's interesting. You know, that can easily happen. Coccyx, yeah, definitely. I mean, that is also a big problem of like you focusing too much on technique, and that you lose um, the vibrancy or the like the life of the art, right? I feel that as well when I'm doing a lot of just sketching for myself, and then you go in and you try to tighten all the art, like clean up, like I'm doing now, for example. The worst, I think the worst um, thing to do is to tighten too much. You gotta still have that emotional aspect of art. You still need to do that, like what makes your choices you, and that momentarily, um, like the line of that you've done with emotions, or the brush mark, that indicates perfectly your emotions. All these things, and they disappear when you go too tight, like when you start defining everything with knowledge too much. Like that's one of the really cool things that I picked up from Glenn Vilppu, and the way he said, like, I think he explained it wonderfully. Um, how's the gun gonna look? Let's have it like a weird broad gun, something like that. I'll have to solve it later. Yeah. So what he said was like doing. I mean, he's a life drawing teacher. But what he said about gesture and so on, he said, do the gesture on emotion and exaggerate the emotion, and be very expressive in the line making, and how the spine bends, and don't worry about having it perfect, but focus in on trying to capture the emotion of the pose. Like, is she proud? Is he hurt? What is the pose, like the emotion of the pose? And then he said, then you go back on top of it and add all the knowledge. But if you've been trying to be perfect from the beginning, you're naturally adding too much knowledge in the placement of the joints and placement of all these things. And what happens is that you stiffen up way too much, and that you lose the emotion, the thing that makes the pose, because you've been just focusing too much on trying to capture the emotion and doing it technically correct. So that was something that I picked up from that workshop, was to first do exaggeration and emotions in poses, and trying to capture the mood of, like, how they're standing, and why they're standing the way they're standing, and so on, and then uh, try to add knowledge to it, so that um, all of that isn't lost, because it's so easily happen that um, that the emotions get lost. And that's why I wanted to sketch out these things, for example, again before I started doing the final line art, because I wanted to play a little bit more with placement and exaggeration, so that now that when I'm gonna focusing more on the final line art, I know a little bit better where to which segments to push more and which to hold back. Let's have an overlap there. Jacob Mobley, yeah. But the thing is that's the thing about it, right? Is that skills goes a long way, but without emotions, it's a dead painting. It's a dead concept. And I mean, like Gaxix, for example, for you who don't know his artwork, uh, here in the chat, it's very textural and very expressive, and it's very, you can sense a lot of emotions looking at the art. And then you, for example, go on ArtStation and you go and look at some other art from some very technical artist, and everything is explained correctly and very technically, like, prolific in that sense. Like, it's everything is explained in a correct and specific manner, but there's no emotions in there, right? It's not that interesting to look at, but it would probably be a great product. So that's a lot like uh, something that one has to keep in mind and measure. Is it to what extent do I need to be dead in the sense of emotions, and to what extent should I be expressive? And I find that's one thing I've struggled with a lot over the years, for me at least, is the fact that I tend to kill a lot of emotions when I think that from sketch to illustration or final illustration, I need to, like, super define everything, and I find it that's been my weak point many years ago. It's like I just went too tight, too much zoomed in, and just murdering the emotions. So really, for me, it's something that a lot of people do, and mistakes a lot of people make. Yeah, so that was a, it was a, I think it was an interesting thought. I thought would be uh, originally my original thought. I think it would be it's a nice topic to bring up, because I think a lot of you are learning. You're in the learning phase where technique is still not automated. Like, you have to really apply the knowledge in a deliberate way, so that you don't mess up when it comes to technique. So I just thought that talking about that original topic, about that there is going to be a point where your technique is going to be secondary, but it's important that you do practice, uh, because it's a lot of people don't get to that point where art becomes way more automated and you know, in citation or quote, fun, right? The a lot of art becomes way more fun when technique is not in the way. You know, you can start playing with ideas and concepts rather than the line work or the shadows. Hey, Captain Jetlag, welcome. Great to have you here. So it's just some words of encouragement, I guess. So keep practicing, keep grinding. That all this grinding has a purpose. You know, there is an end goal to it, and so that you don't feel discouraged by a lot of the grinding of the art. That there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, definitely, Gaxix. I mean, just like I mentioned to Lou Rib, he posted a warm up or a doodle he had been working on, and over the course of what, a year, less than a year, massive improvements. And that's one of the reasons why I love having an online sketchbook or some sort of archiving ability of one's art, is because you see it grow. You don't see it every day how it grows, but it grows, and you just don't realize it until you, by some accident or some odd reason, you go back and see older art, and you just go, holy, is that the way I used to draw? No. You know, and then you feel good about it, and I think that's what's really important with um, with doing studies and things like that, to just remember that studies are studies, and it's not what art is. The studies are preparing for you to do your art. It's not how well you can copy a picture. I mean, fine, that's great, that's a technical knowledge, but you are not the author of that photo. You are not the creator of the emotions in that photo. You have just successfully managed to duplicate it. You know, which is it's a quite an interesting point. A lot of people forget. You know, technical skills are impressive to look at, but it's not everything. Captain Jetlag, yeah, here's one flying in. But I just need to sort more things around, and I'm just gonna be layering. I draw them on separate layers so I can shift them around. I just need to remove the dirty sketch underneath later so that I can get a better picture of you know, where they should stand and so on. But like I said, line art.
Oh,
and having
yeah.
to figure things out with line art, like the placement and pose and so on. It's time consuming. But one good thing though with taking your time and drawing things out like this is that I can then reuse a lot of the segments, a lot of the creatures. I can copy parts of them and be posting them or pasting them um, at other locations just to make things more busy in a faster way. Huh? Kuru? Who is this? Oh, Kuru. Kuru 3. Welcome back. Glad to see you around again. How's you moved houses, right? If I'm not mistaken. Welcome back. Oh, was there is a donation? Ooh, Kuro, man, thank you. Oh man, you're too kind. You're too kind. A big heart out to you, man. Thank you very much. Donations. I'm not worthy. I can show you the whole picture, Kuro. So the whole idea is doing a Super Metroid fan art. So what I'm doing now is just kind of fleshing out the attacking space pirates. So now that I've draw them up a bit, I can start reusing sections and making that a little bit faster. But it's not going to be any fancy results. You know, it's going to be a lot of time-consuming detailing and so on. So, which I think I'm going to try to do offline a little bit here and there, just so that you guys don't get bored to death about me sitting and drawing Insect Guy number 57. um, yeah, but glad that you could join in, and thank you very much, Kuru, for the lovely donation. It'll go straight into the community for buying whatever for you guys. Now that I've wrapped one contract, um, I'm working on wrapping another one, and spare time, it's looking like it's coming. Um, all right. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Good night for the people that are up in the middle of the night. And see you tomorrow morning. You guys are the best. Have a fantastic day, night, good night, bye, good day. See you on Discord.